I called the sheriff while 10 HOA board members were trapped inside my lake house, and none of them could open the doors. I dialed the sheriff at 7:13 p.m. and told him I had 10 trespassers locked inside my own house. An hour earlier, they walked in like they owned it. Chairs pulled out, wine poured, papers spread across my table. My HOA had been using my lake house for months, charging people for access, rewriting rules that didn't exist. I didn't yell. I didn't chase them out. I just waited and built something they couldn't ignore. Stick with me. This one doesn't end the way they thought it would. And if you want more real stories like this, go ahead and subscribe. You'll want to hear what comes next. I dialed Sheriff Lawson at 7:13 p.m., with my eyes still on the front door of my lake house. "I've got 10 trespassers inside my residence," I said, voice steady. "They entered after formal notice. I've secured the property. They can't exit." There was a pause on the line. Not confusion, just the kind of silence a man uses when he's deciding how serious something just got. "Mr. Mercer," Lawson said finally, "are you in immediate danger?" "No, sir," I said. "They are." Behind the steel frame bolted across my front door, someone slammed their shoulder into the wood again. The impact echoed out over the water, sharp and hollow, like a rifle crack swallowed by distance. It didn't move the door an inch. Another voice rose, high, angry, used to being obeyed. "Open this door right now, Cole! You can't do this!" Denise Whitaker. Even through the barrier, I could hear the confidence still clinging to her tone, like she believed this was just another situation she could talk her way through. Another rule she could bend until it broke in her favor. I didn't answer her. I watched. The lake behind me had gone still. No wind, no boats, just that flat, glass-dark water stretching out past the dock, catching the last of the sunset in thin bands of copper light. The kind of quiet that makes every sound carry. Inside, a chair scraped hard across hardwood. Someone else tried the back door. I heard the handle rattle, then the dull metallic thud of reinforced steel meeting force. They were starting to understand. Lawson came back on the line. "Units are en route. Stay where you are. Do not escalate the situation." "I won't," I said. That part was already done. I stepped off the porch and moved along the side of the house, boots crunching slow over the gravel. Every exit was sealed. I'd checked them twice already, but habits like mine don't leave room for assumptions. Front door, 2-inch square steel frame, anchored into preset brackets I'd welded into place weeks earlier. Locked. Back door, same. Lakeside entry, double frame, cross-braced, locked. They weren't kicking through that. Not without tools, not without time. And time was the one thing they didn't have anymore. Another bang from inside, louder this time, followed by a chorus of voices talking over each other. "What is this? Is this even legal? Call someone, call Brian. I don't have service." I stopped at the edge of the dock and turned back toward the house. Through the front window, I could see them now. Shapes moving fast, disorganized. 10 people who had walked in an hour ago like they owned every inch of that place. Now they were clustered together, looking at doors that wouldn't open. Denise stood near the center, still holding herself straight, one hand braced against the table like it belonged to her. Even now, she hadn't let go of that posture. Authority. It's a hard thing for some people to set down. She turned and saw me through the glass. For a second, everything inside went quiet. Then she moved toward the door, fast, heels striking the floor in sharp, controlled steps. She grabbed the handle and pulled it open just enough for it to hit the steel barrier with a solid, final sound. Her face appeared in the narrow gap between the door and the frame. "You've made your point," she said, voice tight now, the edge starting to show. "Open it." I didn't move. "This is your point?" she snapped. "Locking us in like criminals?" I let that sit for a second. Then I said, "You walked in like owners." Her jaw tightened. "We are the board," she said. "We have jurisdiction over community spaces." "This isn't a community space," I said. "It's my house." A flicker. Small, but there. Doubt doesn't come all at once. It shows up in pieces. "You don't get to decide that," she said. But it came out slower now, like she was choosing each word instead of letting them roll. "I already did," I said. Behind her, one of the board members tried the window. It didn't budge. I'd reinforced those two. Not enough to trap someone, just enough to slow them down. Slow was all I needed. "You're going to regret this," Denise said, leaning closer to the gap. I could smell her perfume even through the air between us. Sharp, artificial. It didn't belong out here. "My husband sits on the county planning board," she went on. "You think this ends tonight?" I looked past her at the room behind. My dining table. Chairs pulled into a circle. Papers spread out like it was some kind of official session. Wine glasses half full, catching the last light coming through the windows. They'd made themselves comfortable, like they always did. "No," I said quietly. "It doesn't end tonight." That was the truth. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the point where everything finally stopped being quiet. In the distance, I heard it. Low at first, then rising. Sirens. 2 units by the sound of it. Coming in from the main road, cutting through the trees. Inside, someone else heard it too. "They called the police?" one of them said. Denise didn't turn. Her eyes stayed on me. "You called them," she said. "I did." "You're making a mistake." I shook my head once. "No," I said. "I made that a long time ago." She frowned, just slightly. "What are you talking about?" I didn't answer, because that was the part they didn't understand yet. This didn't start tonight. It didn't start with the steel. It didn't even start with the locks. It started the first time I walked into this house and found strangers sitting at my table like I was the one who didn't belong. The sirens got louder, washing blue light through the trees as the first cruiser turned onto the gravel road. Inside, the board members shifted again, voices lower now, movements tighter. Reality had finally caught up. Denise stood still a second longer, then stepped back from the door. Not defeated. Not yet. Just recalculating. I watched her, then turned my gaze out over the lake again. Still water, fading light. The kind of calm that doesn't ask questions. Behind me, 10 people were trapped inside a house they never had the right to enter. And for the first time since this started, they were the ones asking how it got this far. The sirens cut closer, and I already knew what none of them did. This wasn't the moment everything went wrong. This was the moment everything finally went right. But the real question, the one none of them were ready to answer, was why they thought they could walk into my house in the first place. That answer didn't start with Denise Whitaker. It started with silence. After Rachel died, I stopped staying at the Lakehouse. I didn't abandon it. I didn't forget it. I just couldn't live inside it the same way. Every room held something she'd touched. Every surface carried a version of her I wasn't ready to lose twice. So I changed the way I used the place. I'd drive out once or twice a week, check the dock lines, run the water, walk the perimeter, make sure nothing was breaking down. Then I'd lock it up and leave before the sun went down. Emma noticed, but she didn't push. Kids understand more than you think when you stop pretending everything's fine. From the outside, though, it probably looked different. A house that stayed dark most nights. A dock that went quiet. A place that used to have life in it, now just sitting there. Empty, if you didn't know better. And people like Denise Whitaker don't see absence as grief. They see it as opportunity. The first time I walked in and found them, it was a Tuesday. I remember that because Tuesdays were usually light days at the shop. I'd finished a short run on a set of support brackets, had a couple hours before I needed to be back, and figured I'd swing by the Lakehouse to check a leak under the kitchen sink. Nothing urgent, just routine. I turned off the gravel road and saw the cars first. 4 of them, parked clean along the side, like they'd been there long enough to settle in. Not visitors, not lost, purposeful. I slowed down before I even killed the engine. I didn't recognize any of the vehicles. That was the first thing that felt wrong. The second was the front door, unlocked. I know how I leave my doors. I check them twice out of habit. Once with my hand, once with my eyes. Always have. That door wasn't just unlocked. It was open an inch, enough to let voices slip out into the yard. Talking. Calm. Organized. Like a meeting already in progress. I stepped up onto the porch and pushed the door open. No hesitation. It's a strange thing, walking into your own house and feeling like you're the one stepping out of line. They were sitting around my dining table. 7 of them. Papers spread out. Pens moving. One woman had a laptop open. Another had a glass of white wine sitting on a coaster Rachel had bought at some roadside stand 2 summers before she got sick. Denise Whitaker sat at the head. Of course she did. She didn't stand when I came in. Didn't even look surprised. She just glanced up, like I'd interrupted something minor, and tilted her head slightly. "Oh," she said. "You're back. Not this is your house, Paul. Not we didn't know. Just that." I stood there a second, letting the room catch up to me. My table, my chairs, my house. And not one person in that room looked like they thought they were doing anything wrong. "What is this?" I asked. Denise leaned back in her chair like she had all the time in the world. "We use this space for board meetings," she said. "It's been working well for everyone." I took a step forward. "This isn't a meeting space," I said. "This is my house." A couple of them shifted uncomfortably at that. Not Denise. She smiled. Not friendly, not hostile, just practiced. "The previous property manager let us start using it," she said. "It's become something of a community asset." There was no property manager. There never had been. I didn't correct her right away. I was watching the rest of them. 2 of the board members were already packing up slowly, like they felt the ground shifting under them. One kept her eyes down, pretending to review notes she wasn't reading. They knew. They just didn't want to be the first to say it. "You need to leave," I said. No raised voice, no threat, just a statement. Denise tapped her pen once against the table. "We're almost finished here," she said. "Give us 10 minutes." I stepped closer. "You need to leave now." That's when the room changed. Not dramatically, just enough. A little less confidence. A little more calculation. Denise looked at me longer this time, like she was reassessing something she'd already decided. Then she stood, slowly. "All right," she said, smoothing out the front of her jacket. "If that's how you want to handle it." She started gathering her papers. Not in a rush. Not apologizing. Just taking her time. The others followed her lead. Chairs slid back, pages stacked, laptop closed. One of them whispered something to another. I didn't catch it. They filed past me toward the door. Most of them didn't look at me. Denise did. She stopped just short of the threshold and turned back. "You should think about what this place could be," she said. "It's wasted sitting empty." "It's not empty," I said. She gave me that same small, controlled smile. "It is," she said, "most of the time." Then she walked out. Heels against wood, gravel underfoot, car doors closing one by one, engines starting. And then they were gone. I stood in the doorway for a long time after that. The house felt different. Not broken, not damaged, just used. There were small things. A chair slightly out of place. A smudge on the table where someone had dragged a folder across the finish. The wine glass, still half full. I walked over and picked it up. It was still cold. That was the part that stuck. They hadn't rushed. They hadn't felt like they needed to, like they belonged there long enough to finish what they started. I set the glass in the sink and looked around the room. Rachel's curtains, Rachel's table, Rachel's house. And a group of people had just sat inside it like none of that mattered. That was the first time. It should have been the last. I made sure of that. Or at least, I thought I did. I drove into town the next morning and bought new locks, commercial-grade deadbolts, reinforced plates, the kind you install when you don't want anyone getting through without a key. I replaced every single one that afternoon. Front door, back door, side entry. Tested them twice. Locked them myself. Stood there for a second, hand on the handle, making sure I felt it click all the way into place. Then I left. 5 days later, they were inside again. And this time, they didn't even bother pretending it was temporary. I knew something was wrong before I even stepped out of the truck. The front blinds were open. Not wide, just enough to catch the angle of movement inside. A shift of light where there shouldn't have been any. The kind of thing you only notice if you already know how a place is supposed to sit when it's empty. I cut the engine and listened. Voices again. More than before. Confident. I walked up the porch slower this time. Not cautious, just paying attention. Every detail. Every sound. The door was locked. At least it looked locked. I tested the handle anyway. It opened clean. No resistance. No hesitation. Just unlocked. I didn't move for a second. I knew exactly how I'd left it. I pushed the door open. The room was rearranged. Not subtly. Not accidentally. The dining table had been shifted a few feet toward the center of the room. Chairs spaced evenly around it. A folding table set up along the far wall with stacks of printed documents and a plastic bin labeled Arch Files in black marker. Denise stood at the head again, like she'd never left. This time there were more of them. 8, maybe 9. Some faces I recognized from the first meeting. Others new. One man was plugging a power strip into the wall, running cords toward a laptop and a small printer. They had equipment. They had organization. They had settled in. Denise looked up as I stepped inside. No surprise. No pause. Just acknowledgement. "You're early," she said. I stopped just inside the doorway. "That's my line," I said. A few of them glanced up. One woman near the corner shifted in her seat, eyes moving between me and Denise like she was waiting for instructions. Denise didn't rush. She never rushed. "We have a budget session tonight," she said, flipping a page in front of her. "It's going to run a little long." "You're not having anything in here," I said. "This isn't your building." She set her pen down slowly. "Cole," she said, like we were in the middle of a conversation we'd already had. "We've been through this." "No," I said. "We haven't." I stepped further into the room. "You walked into my house last week without permission. I told you to leave. You left. That was the end of it." Denise tilted her head. "That was a misunderstanding," she said. "We've been using this space for quite some time. It's part of the community operations now." "There is no community operations in my house." She smiled again. that same measured expression, like she was explaining something simple to someone who just needed time to catch up. "The neighborhood has grown," she said. "We need a place to meet. This location is ideal, central, accessible, underutilized. It's private," I cut in. One of the board members cleared his throat. "Denise," he said quietly, "maybe we should—" She raised a hand without looking at him. He stopped. That told me everything I needed to know about how this worked. "This isn't about you personally," she said to me. "It's about what's best for the community." I took another step forward. What's best for the community doesn't get decided in my living room. A few of them shifted again. The tension was different now. Not confusion like before. This time it was awareness. They knew this wasn't normal. They just weren't used to anyone saying it out loud. I looked at the door. The lock. The one I had installed myself. "Who opened that?" I asked. No one answered. Denise didn't even glance at it. "We have access," she said. "How?" "Through maintenance channels." "There are no maintenance channels." She shrugged slightly. "There are when the board authorizes them." That was it. Not an explanation, not a justification, just authority. Declared, not proven. I walked past the table straight to the door and pulled it open wider. Then I turned back. "Everyone out," I said. No raised voice, no argument, just final. Silence held for a second. Then one of them, same woman from before, started gathering her things. Slow at first. Careful. The man with the printer unplugged it. The others followed. Not because Denise told them to, because they were starting to realize she might not be able to. Denise stayed where she was, hands on the table, eyes on me. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said. "No," I said. "You are." The room emptied around her. Chairs scraped, papers stacked. Quiet apologies muttered under breath as they passed me. One of them, older guy, gray hair, paused at the door. "This isn't right," he said. Not to me. Not to Denise, just out loud. Then he left. Denise was the last one. Again. She picked up her folder, closed it with deliberate care, and walked toward me. Up close, her confidence didn't crack, but it shifted. Less certainty. More irritation. "This won't hold," she said quietly. "What won't?" "This," she said, gesturing around the room. "Your position." I didn't respond. She stepped closer. "You can't isolate yourself from the community and expect everything to stay the same," she said. "There are processes, structures, oversight." "This isn't oversight," I said. "It's trespass." She smiled again. "We'll see," she said. Then she walked past me and out onto the porch. I watched her go. Watched the rest of them climb into their cars. Watched the engines turn over one by one. And then I closed the door. Locked it. Turned the deadbolt until I felt it set. This time I didn't assume that would be enough. I went through every lock again. Front, back, side. Checked the windows. Checked the frames. Everything was solid. Everything was secure. I stood in the middle of the room for a long moment, looking at what they'd done. The table, the cords, the marks on the floor where they'd dragged furniture across wood Rachel had refinished by hand. This wasn't confusion anymore. It wasn't even arrogance. It was something else. Something built on the idea that no one would stop them, that no one ever had. I cleaned up what they left behind, put the table back where it belonged, moved the chairs, wiped down the surface where their papers had been spread out. Small things, but necessary. Then I left. Locked the door behind me, drove back to town, and told myself that was the end of it. 5 days later, Eli Carter sent me a picture. Front porch, broad daylight, a locksmith kneeling at my door, and Denise Whitaker standing behind him, arms crossed, watching like she owned the place. I didn't call her. I didn't call the locksmith. I called Eli Carter. He picked up on the second ring. "You see it?" he asked. "I see it," I said. "How long have they been there?" "About 15 minutes before I snapped the picture," he said. "Guy's working that lock like he's done it before. Didn't look like a break-in. Looked official." "Nothing about that is official." Eli exhaled slowly. "She told him you lost your keys," he said. "Said she had authorization to get in." "From who?" There was a pause. That part she didn't explain. I was already in the truck. I didn't remember the drive out to the Lakehouse, just the turns, the gravel, the way the tires hit the dip before the bend in the road. By the time I pulled up, they were gone. No cars, no locksmith, just my front door, closed. I walked up slow this time, not because I was unsure, because I already knew what I was going to find. The lock was intact. No scratches, no damage, no forced entry. But it wasn't mine anymore. I tested the key anyway. It didn't turn. I stood there a second, key in hand, feeling the exact moment something crossed from irritation into something colder. They hadn't broken in. They had replaced the entry. I opened the door. Inside, the house was set up again. Chairs arranged, tables shifted, papers spread across the surface like someone had just stepped out for a minute. There was a coffee pot on the counter, still warm. I walked over and touched it. Fresh. That meant they hadn't just been here. They had been comfortable here. I moved through the room slowly. Everything looked clean on the surface, but the details were wrong. The chair Rachel always kept angled toward the window was turned inward. The drawer where I kept spare keys had been opened and emptied. The small things. The kind that tell you someone didn't just enter your space. They used it. On the refrigerator, there was a yellow post-it note. Purple ink. Neat handwriting. "Thanks for the upgrade. Much easier now. D." I peeled it off slowly. Held it between my fingers. Didn't crumple it. Didn't throw it away. I set it on the table instead. Evidence that word hadn't meant much to me a week ago, now it did. I took pictures of everything. The lock, the table, the coffee, the note, angles, timestamps, details. Then I walked outside and sat on the tailgate of my truck. Didn't move for a while. Didn't call anyone. I just thought. This wasn't someone pushing boundaries. This was someone who believed there were no boundaries, and that only works if everyone else agrees to pretend that's true. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. The next morning, the letter showed up. White envelope, HOA letterhead, Denise's name printed clean at the bottom. Notice of non-compliance. I read it once standing by the mailbox, then again inside the truck. Unauthorized exterior hardware modifications, violation of Section 4.7, failure to restore original locks within 14 days, daily assessment of $150. I read that line twice. Section 4.7. I didn't remember anything about locks in the bylaws. So I went home, pulled up the document, and read it again. All 46 pages, every section, every clause. Section 4.7 had nothing to do with locks. It covered mailbox placement, height restrictions, nothing about doors, nothing about hardware, nothing about anything they were claiming. I read it again, anyway. Same result. No rule, no authority. Just a number printed on a letter to make it look real. That's when I called Claire Whitmore. She answered on the first ring. Claire Whitmore. It's Cole Mercer, I said. I need you to look at something. Send it over. I took a picture of the letter and forwarded it. 30 seconds later, she called me back. They cited 4.7? She asked. Yeah, that's mailbox height, she said. I know. She paused. Then I heard the shift in her tone. Interest turning into something sharper. Do you have anything else? She asked. They broke into my house when I said. Replaced the lock. Left a note. That's not an HOA violation, she said. That's a legal problem. For them? For them, she said. But we need to document it right. I leaned back against the truck. They're using the place, I said. Meetings, equipment, like it belongs to them. Do they have any written authorization? No. Any clause in the CC&Rs that allows access? No. Then everything they're doing is outside their authority. I looked back toward the Lakehouse. They don't think that matters. Claire didn't hesitate. It matters, she said. They're just counting on you not knowing that. I glanced down at the letter again. The clean formatting, the official tone, the fake section number. They're sending fines now, I said. Daily. Unenforceable if the rule doesn't exist, she said. They can print whatever they want. Doesn't make it real. I was quiet for a second. Then I asked the question that had been sitting there since Eli sent the picture. How do they get away with it? Claire didn't soften the answer. Because most people pay, she said. Or they don't fight back. I looked at the post-it note still sitting on the table inside. Purple ink. Smiley face. They picked the wrong house, I said. I was hoping you'd say that, she replied. I folded the letter once and set it on the dashboard. What's the first move? I asked. Not reaction, she said. Documentation. I've started that. Good, she said. Now we make them prove everything they're claiming. In writing. And if they don't? They won't, she said. That's the point. I nodded slowly. Outside, the lake was still, quiet. Like it always was before something changed. They're not just pushing, I said. They're taking. Claire didn't argue. Then we make a record of every inch they take, she said, and we give it back to them in court. I ended the call and sat there for another minute. Then I grabbed the post-it note, folded it carefully, slid it into the envelope with the violation letter. 2 pieces of paper. One pretending to be authority. One proving exactly what that authority really was. That was the moment it shifted. Not into anger, not yet. Into clarity. Because if they were willing to break in, if they were willing to rewrite rules that didn't exist, then this wasn't about access, and it wasn't about control. It was about something else entirely, something bigger. And I was about to find out exactly how far it went. It started with Eli again. He didn't call this time. He just sent a message. 2 boats tied to your dock, not yours. I was already halfway through reading it when I grabbed my keys. By the time I reached the Lakehouse, I could see them from the bend. 1 pontoon, 1 bass boat, both tied clean along my dock, like they'd been there all day. No note, no permission. Just claimed. I parked and walked straight down to the water. Lines were tight, knots done right. These weren't kids messing around. These were people who believed they had the right to be there. I checked the registration numbers. Neither belonged to anyone I knew. Eli came down from his place a few minutes later, hands in his pockets, eyes already on the boats. They've been here since morning, he said. Saw a couple guys unload coolers, head back out. They say anything to you? He shook his head. Didn't have to. They acted like it was normal. I looked back at the house. They didn't come up? Not today, he said. Yesterday, though, lights were on, late. I let that settle. They're using it, I said. Eli nodded once. Been using it, he said. You just hadn't seen it yet. That wasn't the part that bothered me. The part that bothered me was how organized it felt. This wasn't random. This was scheduled. Who told them they could dock here? I asked. Eli didn't answer right away. Then he said, You should talk to Phil. Phil who? Phil Sanders. Lot up the hill. Moved in last year. He's been paying for access. I turned to him. Paying who? Eli gave a small, humorless smile. You already know. I found Phil that afternoon. He answered the door holding a receipt book. Not defensive, not suspicious. Just, normal. Hey, he said. You must be Cole. I've been meaning to meet you. I stepped inside. You been using the dock? I asked. Yeah, he said. Denise set it up when I moved in. Said it was part of the community access plan. How much? $200 a year for facility use, he said. Plus $50 a month if you want dock priority. I didn't react. Who do you pay? He held up the receipt book. Direct, he said. Venmo, mostly. Sometimes cash. Depends. Account name? He flipped a page. S. Whitaker. That was it. No HOA account. No ledger. No record tied to the association. Just her. How long? I asked. Since I moved in, he said. About a year. Anyone else? He laughed slightly. Most of the lower lots, he said. People figured it was legit. She said the money went toward maintenance. I nodded once. Has anything been maintained? I asked. Phil paused, then shook his head. Not that I've seen. I left without saying much else. Didn't need to. The numbers were already stacking in my head. If Phil was paying $200 a year, and at least a dozen others were too, plus monthly dock fees, that wasn't small. That wasn't casual. That was a system. I drove straight to Claire's office. She had the documents spread out before I even sat down. What did you find? She asked. I told her. All of it. The dock, the payments, the personal account. She didn't interrupt, just listened. Then she leaned back in her chair. That's not HOA overreach, she said. That's misappropriation. How bad? She tapped her pen against the desk once. If she's collecting funds under the representation of HOA authority and not reporting them through the association, she said, that's exposure. For what? Civil liability, she said. Potentially criminal, depending on volume and intent. I nodded. How do we prove it? Claire slid a folder across the desk. I already started pulling financial disclosures, she said. HOAs are required to maintain records. If the money's not there, then it never existed, I said. On paper, she corrected. Which is exactly what we want. I opened the folder. 3 years of summaries, budgets, expenses, reserve funds, no line item for facility income, no dock maintenance, no community space, nothing. Zero. She's been collecting for at least a year, I said. And reporting none of it, Claire replied. I closed the folder slowly. That's not a mistake, I said. No, she said. It's a pattern. I leaned forward. She's using my house, I said. My dock, my property, and charging people for it. Claire nodded. Then we stopped thinking of this as a property dispute, she said. What is it? A case, she said. That word landed differently. Not reactive, not emotional. Structured. Controlled. What's the move? I asked. Document everything, she said. Transactions, witnesses, usage patterns. And then? Then we give her a chance to stop. I looked at her. And if she doesn't? Claire didn't hesitate. Then we don't stop her, she said. We let her keep going. I frowned slightly. Why? Because the more she does, Claire said, the stronger the case becomes. I leaned back in the chair. So we wait. We prepare, she corrected. I nodded slowly. That felt right. Not passive. Not weak. Just patient. I drove back out to the Lakehouse that evening. The boats were still there. The lines still tight. The assumption still intact. I untied them, one by one. Didn't damage anything. Didn't cut the ropes. Just released them and pushed them back into the water. Let them drift. Not far. Just enough to make a point. Then I walked back up to the house. Stood there for a second, hand on the door, and noticed something I hadn't seen before. Fresh paint. Not much. Just a small section near the corner. Flat white. Not the color Rachel picked. Not the color that belonged there. Just a test patch. Like someone checking coverage before committing to the whole wall. I stepped back and looked at it. Really looked. That wasn't maintenance, that was intent. They weren't just using the house. They were planning to change it. Rewrite it. Make it match whatever version of reality Denise had already decided was true. I pulled out my phone, took a picture, zoomed in, captured the edge where the white cut into Rachel's color, that soft blue she'd spent 3 weekends choosing, that Emma still called Mom's sky, half an inch of white over it, just enough to prove what was coming next. I lowered the phone slowly and felt something shift. Not anger. That had already come and gone. This was quieter, colder, clearer. Because now I knew. This wasn't about access. It wasn't about meetings. It wasn't even about money. It was about control. And people like Denise Whitaker don't stop on their own. They stop when something makes them. I stood there a minute longer, then turned and walked back to the truck, already thinking ahead, already building something in my head I hadn't quite put into words yet. Because if she was willing to repaint my house, then the next move wasn't going to be a letter. It was going to be something I could feel. And when that happened, I wasn't going to argue. I was going to be ready. The next morning, I drove straight past the Lakehouse. Didn't stop. Didn't check the dock. Didn't look at the wall. Because reacting was exactly what Denise expected. And I was done giving her that. Instead, I went to the shop, closed the bay doors, and started laying out steel. 2-inch square tubing, heavy gauge, the kind I used on structural frames, bridges, load-bearing supports. Not decorative, not flexible, final. I didn't start cutting right away. I sketched first, measured from memory, front door dimensions, back entry, lakeside sliding door, even the smaller side accessed by the utility panel, every entry point, every exit. Then I welded the first frame. Clean beads, tight corners, hinged on one side, lock plate on the other. Not complicated, but not something you were getting through without tools and time. I didn't rush it. Precision mattered. Because this wasn't about locking people out. It was about controlling when they couldn't get out. By noon, I had the first frame finished. By evening, I had 2. I didn't bring them to the Lakehouse yet. Not until the next step was in place. Claire handled that part. The formal notice went out certified mail that afternoon. Simple language. No threats, no emotion. Just fact. Cole Mercer, lawful owner of the property located at the recorded address, formally revokes any and all implied or assumed access to said property by Denise Whitaker and any representative of the Lakeview Ridge HOA. Any future entry without written consent, will be considered criminal trespass under state law. It wasn't aggressive. It was definitive. And it came with proof of delivery. That mattered. Because before that letter, what Denise was doing could be twisted into something civil. After that letter, it became criminal. I got the confirmation 3 days later. Signed, Denise Whitaker. Same tight, controlled handwriting. Same person who left a smiley face on my refrigerator, now acknowledging, in writing, that she had been told to stay out. That was piece 1. Piece 2 came from Eli. He set up a trail camera facing the side yard. Didn't ask permission. Didn't need to. "You're going to want to see this," he said. We mounted it on a tree line that caught the patio door. Not obvious, not hidden, just there, waiting. The first night, nothing. Second night, movement. Denise's SUV, clear as day in the timestamp. She parked like she always did, walked straight to the side entry. Didn't hesitate. Didn't knock. Just reached for the handle and went inside. Like the notice didn't exist. Like the house wasn't mine. Like the rules only applied when she said they did. I watched the footage twice. Then again. Not because I needed to. Because I wanted to be sure. Third night, same thing. This time with 2 other board members. Chairs carried in. Papers. Laughter. No caution. No concern. Just routine. That was the moment it locked in. Not emotionally. Structurally. They weren't testing boundaries anymore. They had erased them. I copied the footage onto a drive, labeled it. Date, time, entry, evidence. Claire reviewed it that evening. "Good," she said. "That's not the word I'd use." "It's the right one," she replied. "Clear entry after notice. No ambiguity. How many times do we need?" She paused. "Enough to remove doubt," she said. "Not just for a judge, for anyone watching." I understood that. This wasn't just about being right. It was about making it undeniable. So I didn't stop them. I let the pattern continue. Day 4, day 6, day 9. Each entry recorded, each violation stacking, each decision they made tightening the frame around them. While that built, I kept working in the shop. 3 frames, then 4. Each one measured exact, each one tested. I built mounting plates too, small steel brackets that could be bolted into the door frames ahead of time, painted to match, hidden in plain sight. If you didn't know what they were, you'd walk right past them. If you did, you could mount a barrier in under a minute. I installed those on a Wednesday, midday, no one around. Quick work. Drill, bolt, tighten. 4 entry points, 4 anchor systems, all set. From the outside, nothing looked different. From the inside, it would be too late. That left one final piece. Timing. I didn't have to wait long. Eli texted me Thursday afternoon. "Meeting tonight. Full board." I read it once, then called Claire. "They're going back in," I said. "Good," she replied. "They've already been warned." "I know." "They've been recorded." "I know." There was a pause. "You're ready?" she asked. I looked at the frames stacked in the bed of my truck, at the locks, at the hinge pins, at the plan that had been building piece by piece without a single word spoken to Denise. "Yeah," I said. "I am." Claire didn't say much after that. She didn't need to. The law was already in place. The evidence was already built. What happened next was just execution. I loaded the frames under a tarp, secured them, checked each lock twice. Then I sat there for a minute. Engine off, hands still. Because once I started, There wasn't going to be any going back to letters. No more warnings. No more pretending this was something it wasn't. They had been told. They had signed for it. They had chosen to ignore it. That choice had consequences. I turned the key. The truck came to life. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't reacting to what Denise Whitaker did next. I was deciding it. But even with everything in place, evidence, notice, timing, there was still one piece I hadn't accounted for, and it showed up in a county filing 2 days later. Claire called me just after 9 p.m. Her tone wasn't alarmed. It was focused. "Cole," she said, "I need you to pull up the county records portal." I already had my laptop open. "What am I looking for?" "Search your property address," she said. "Filter for recent submissions." I typed it in. One result. Filed that afternoon. I clicked it. And for a second, I thought I'd misread it. Petition for land use reclassification. Applicant: Lakeview Ridge HOA. Authorized representative: Brian Whitaker. I read the next line slower. Proposed change: single-family residential to community. Recreational facility. I leaned back in the chair. "They're trying to take it," I said. "Not physically," Claire said. "Legally." I scrolled down. There it was. Signature block. Brian Whitaker. Underneath it, property owner authorization, and a name I hadn't seen in years. Mercer Family Trust. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Claire filled the silence. "That trust doesn't exist anymore, does it?" "No," I said. "It dissolved when the title transferred to me. 3 years ago. Then he signed under a legal entity that no longer holds ownership," she said. "That's fraud." "Yes," she said. "On a county filing." I stared at the screen. They weren't just using the house anymore. They were trying to rewrite what it was. If that petition went through, it wouldn't be trespass. It would be sanctioned access. Permanent. "What's the timeline?" I asked. "Preliminary hearing in 10 days, she said. "Final vote 30 after that." I closed the laptop halfway. "We shut it down now," I said. Claire didn't answer immediately. Then, "No." I looked back at the screen. "No," I repeated. "If we challenge it now," she said, "they withdraw it, quietly. It disappears. And if we don't, they present it," she said, "on record, in front of the full commission." I understood where she was going. "They have to state ownership authorization," I said. "Yes." "And they'll use the trust name." "Yes." I nodded slowly. "And then we prove it doesn't exist." "After it's recorded," she said. "After it's documented. After it's public." I leaned back in the chair again. This wasn't escalation. This was exposure. "They'll lie under record," I said. "They already have," Claire replied. "We're just giving them a stage." I looked out the window. Dark. Still. Same quiet as the lake before something breaks. "What if it passes preliminary?" I asked. "It will," she said. "That's not the point. The point is what they say to make it pass." Exactly. I opened the laptop again, read through the filing line by line. Language designed to sound official. Community benefit. Shared access. Underutilized structure. Every word framed to turn my house into something public, something controlled, something that wasn't mine anymore. "They're not even hiding it," I said. "They don't think they need to," Claire said. That tracked. Denise didn't operate in shadows. She operated in assumption. Assumption that no one would challenge her. Assumption that authority didn't need proof. "Let it go forward," I said. That's what I recommend, Claire replied. And then? Then we object, she said, with certified documents, recorded deed, trust dissolution. And the audio from the hearing? She paused. You're recording it? I will be. Good, she said. One-party consent state. That becomes evidence. I closed the laptop. That was the third piece. Not just trespass. Not just financial misuse. Now document fraud. And not quiet fraud. Public. On record. In their own words. I drove to the hearing 10 days later. Didn't dress up. Didn't announce myself. Just sat in the back row. Watched. 6 commissioners at the front. Nameplates. Microphones. Routine. Brian Whitaker stepped up when his name was called. Clean suit. Confident posture. Reading from prepared notes. He didn't hesitate once. This petition has been authorized by the Mercer Family Trust, he said. Clear. Direct. Recorded. I counted 4 times he said it. 4 separate statements of authorization. 4 separate confirmations of something that didn't exist. No one challenged him. No one asked for verification. They nodded, took notes, voted. 4-2 in favor of preliminary approval, exactly like Claire predicted. I didn't speak, didn't move, didn't react. Because this wasn't the moment. This was the setup. Outside, Claire was waiting. How'd it go? She asked. He said it, I replied. 4 times. She smiled slightly. Perfect. Audio's clean, I added. No interruptions. Then we file objection in the morning, she said, with everything attached. Trust dissolution. Recorded deed. And the transcript, I said. Claire nodded. That filing dies, she said. But his statements don't. I looked back at the building. Lights still on. People still inside. They're getting sloppy, I said. They're getting desperate, she corrected. There's a difference. Sloppy is accidental. Desperate is intentional. It means they know they're losing control. And people like Denise don't handle that quietly. What's next? I asked. Claire looked at me. Now? She said. Now we wait for them to push again. I didn't have to wait long. Because when people think they're about to lose something they believe is theirs, they don't pull back. They double down. And Denise Whitaker was about to do exactly that. It started with a flyer. Bright yellow, cheap paper, folded once and shoved into mailboxes across the neighborhood. Eli brought one over that afternoon. No logo, no official header, just bold text across the top. Safety alert, potential hazard near lakefront property. My name was printed underneath, my address. A paragraph about industrial materials, environmental concerns, and risk to nearby residents. No signature, no source, just enough language to scare people who didn't know better. She dropped these off herself, Eli said. Walked the whole block. I read it once, then again, not because I needed to, because I wanted to understand how far she was willing to go. She's trying to isolate you, Eli said. She already did, I replied. That same afternoon, Claire called. She's escalating, she said. That flyer isn't just noise, it's groundwork. For what? For justification, she said. If she paints you as a hazard, it makes everything else easier to defend. I looked down at the paper. She's not defending anything, I said. She's rewriting it. Exactly, Claire replied. That night, the trail camera triggered again. I didn't even need to check it immediately. I already knew what I'd find, but I watched it anyway. Denise's Escalade rolled into frame just after 8 p.m., parked in the same spot. Same angle, same assumption. She got out alone this time. Walked straight to the side door. Didn't hesitate. Didn't look around. Just opened it and went inside. Like the notice didn't exist. Like the cameras didn't matter. Like nothing had changed. Except everything had. The next morning, the call came in. Fire marshal. Anonymous complaint. Reported hazardous materials stored near shoreline property. I met him at the Lakehouse. Name was Doug. Mid-50s. Quiet. The kind of man who's seen enough false alarms to recognize one before he finishes the inspection. He walked through the house, checked the shed, opened cabinets, looked at everything, didn't rush, didn't assume. Just verified. 15 minutes later, he closed his clipboard. "You're fine," he said. "Everything here's within code." "I know." He gave me a look. "You've got someone making calls," he said. "I know that too." He nodded once. "I'll file it clean," he said. "No violations." "Appreciate it." He paused before leaving. "Next time," he added, "they'll try something else." I watched him drive off. He wasn't wrong. That night, it wasn't just the camera that triggered. It was the power. Everything went dark at 1:47 a.m. No warning, no flicker, just off. I was already awake when my phone buzzed. Alert from the trail cam. Motion detected. I opened the feed. Grainy infrared. A figure moving along the side of the house, carrying something. Long. Metal. They stopped at the electrical panel. Opened it. Reached inside. Then, cut. Clean. Deliberate. The camera caught her face when she turned. 2 seconds. Clear enough. Denise Whitaker. Holding cable cutters like it was just another tool she had the right to use. I didn't move right away. Didn't call anyone. I just watched the rest of the footage. She closed the panel. Walked back to her SUV. Drove off, no rush, no fear. Just certainty. That was the moment it crossed another line. Not property, not money, not control. Criminal. I backed up the footage immediately. Cloud, drive, external, 3 copies, labeled, time-stamped, documented. Then I called Claire. "She cut the power," I said. Pause. "Do you have it on camera?" "Yes." "Clear identification?" "Yes." Another pause, then, "Good," she said. That word again. Good. "She's stacking charges," Claire continued. "Trespass after notice, utility tampering, fraud. It's all connecting now." I leaned back against the counter. "She's not slowing down," I said. "She can't," Claire replied. "Not anymore." Because if she did, everything she built would collapse. And people like Denise don't step back. They push harder, which meant we were close. "Eli texted," I said. "Board meeting scheduled, tomorrow night." "Location?" "You already know." Claire didn't hesitate. "Then that's it," she said. I looked around the house, at the walls, at the table, at the door frames I had already reinforced. "They're going to walk in like they always do," I said. "Yes," she said. "And this time?" I glanced at the stacked frames in the truck bed, the locks, the hinges, the work I'd already finished. "This time," I said, "they don't walk out." Silence on the line. Then Claire said, "Call the sheriff the moment it's done." "I will." "And Cole?" "Yeah?" "Make sure everything is by the book." I looked at the notice receipt pinned to the wall, the signed name, the footage, the filings. "It is," I said. I ended the call and stood there for a second. Then I walked outside, checked the brackets, checked the frames, ran my hand over the steel like I always did before a job. Solid. Ready. All that was left was timing. And Denise had already said it, because tomorrow night, they were coming back. I parked a quarter-mile down the road, same spot I'd picked 2 nights earlier, far enough that no headlights would give me away, close enough to move fast. The truck ticked as the engine cooled. I sat there for a second with both hands on the wheel, not thinking about what was about to happen, just running through the sequence. Order mattered. Timing mattered. Mistakes weren't an option. I stepped out and pulled the tarp back. 4 frames. Black steel. Clean welds. Hinges aligned. Locks already set. I checked each one again. Habit. Then I loaded the first 2 onto the handcart and moved through the tree line. The ground was soft, quiet underfoot. No lights from the house yet. Good. By the time I staged all 4 frames behind the structure, the first car turned onto the gravel. 6:58 p.m., right on time. I stayed in the shadows near the shed, watching. 1 SUV, then another, then a third. Doors opening. Voices. Casual. No hesitation. They walked up the porch steps like they'd done it 100 times. Because they had. The front door opened. They went in. Lights came on one by one inside the house. Living room, kitchen, dining area. The same pattern. Routine. Familiar. Denise arrived last. 7:03 p.m. Pearl white Escalade. Same parking spot. Same controlled movement as she stepped out. She carried a folder under one arm and a bottle of wine in the other, like this was just another meeting, like nothing had changed. She walked in without even glancing around. Door left slightly open behind her. I counted heads through the window. 10. Full board. Perfect. I checked my watch. 7:07. They'd settle in, start talking, spread papers, give it a few minutes. Let them relax, let them believe. Then I moved. Front door first, frame up. Hinge pins dropped clean into the brackets I'd already installed. Swing it into place. Lock through. Click. Solid. No noise beyond the metal settling. 90 seconds. Back door. Same process. Quicker this time. 80 seconds. Click. I moved along the side. The lakeside entry was wider. Double frame. 2 lock points. Set the hinges. Align the brackets. Lock 1. Lock 2. Click. Click. I stepped back. 3 entries sealed. 1 left. The smaller utility door near the corner. Final frame. Hinges set. Lock engaged. Click. I stood there for a second, looking at the house. Lights still on. Voices still moving. No one had noticed. Total time. 5 minutes. 38 seconds. Exactly what I'd practiced. Exactly what I planned. I walked back around to the front, stood 3 feet from the door. Waited. Inside, chairs scraped. Someone laughed. Then, the first handle turned. The door opened 2 inches, stopped. Steel. Silence. Then confusion. Is something blocking? The handle rattled. Harder this time. The door pushed again. Didn't move. What the hell? Footsteps inside. More voices. The back door. Same result. A solid, unmoving stop. Then the lakeside door. A heavier sound. Wood hitting steel. Echoing across the water. That's when it shifted. Confusion into realization. Why won't it open? Is this locked from outside? Who did this? I stepped into view, right in front of the door. Denise saw me first. Her face came into the gap between the door and the steel frame. For a second, she didn't speak, didn't move. just looked, processing. Then, "What is this?" she demanded. "Security," I said. Her expression hardened. "Open the door." "No." The word landed clean. No hesitation. No volume. Just final. "You can't trap people like this," she said. "You entered after notice," I replied. "That's trespass." Her jaw tightened. "This is HOA property." "No," I said. "It's not." Behind her, the others crowded closer, phones out, trying for signal, voices overlapping. "What do we do?" "Call someone. Call Brian." Denise didn't turn. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. "You're making a mistake," she said. I pulled my phone out, dialed. She watched the screen, listened. 911, what's your emergency?" "I need a deputy at 471 Lake Ridge Drive," I said. "I have 10 individuals inside my residence who entered after formal trespass notice. Property is secured." Silence. Then, "Units are on the way." I ended the call. Denise stared at me. "You called the police?" "Yes." "You're serious?" "Yes." Her confidence cracked, just slightly. Not gone, but thinner. "This isn't going to end the way you think," she said. I nodded once. "You're right," I said. Blue lights cut through the trees before she could answer. Reflections flickering across the lake, growing closer. Inside, the room shifted again. Voices dropping. Movement slowing. Reality settling in. Denise stepped back from the door. Not retreating. Recalculating. But it was too late for that. Because this part, this moment, wasn't something she controlled anymore. The first cruiser rolled up. Then the second. Gravel crunching. Doors opening. Sheriff Lawson stepped out. Took one look at the steel across the door. Then at me. "Mr. Mercer," he said. I nodded. "They entered after notice, Antachos," I said. "You have the documentation." He looked at the door, then through the gap, then back at me. "Unlock it," he said. I stepped forward, pulled the key, unlocked the padlock, lifted the hinge pins, swung the frame open, one by one. They came out, heads down, quiet. No arguments, no authority left to stand on. Denise came out last. Of course she did. She straightened her jacket, lifted her chin, tried to hold on to something that wasn't there anymore. "This isn't over," she said. Lawson didn't respond to her. He looked at me, then at her, then back at me. And in that moment, the entire balance shifted. Sheriff Lawson didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Ma'am," he said, looking directly at Denise. "Step over here." She didn't move right away. For the first time since I'd met her, there was hesitation. Not confusion, not denial, calculation. Like she was trying to decide which version of authority still applied. "My husband," she started. "Isn't here," Lawson cut in. "You are." That landed, clean, final. One of the deputies moved closer, not aggressive, just present. Denise straightened again, but it didn't carry the same weight, not anymore. "These are HOA board members conducting official business," she said, trying to rebuild the ground under her feet. "This is a community facility under review." Lawson held up a hand. "Do you have a deed?" he asked. Silence. Not from the others, from her. He turned to me. "Mr. Mercer, do you have documentation of ownership?" I handed him the folder I'd already prepared. Deed. Transfer records. Trust dissolution. All clean. All current. He flipped through it quickly. Didn't need long. Then he turned back to Denise. "This property is privately owned," he said. "You were served notice to stay off it?" I pulled out the certified receipt. Her signature, date, time. Lawson took it, checked it, nodded once. "Ma'am," he said, "you've been formally notified not to enter this property. You entered anyway." Denise opened her mouth, closed it. The room, what was left of it outside, went quiet. Not just quiet. Still. Because everyone there understood what just happened. The rules had stopped bending. "They invited us," one of the board members said from behind her. "You thought wrong," Lawson said. No anger, just fact. He handed the paperwork back to me, then looked at Denise again. "Turn around," he said. That was it. No build-up, no warning. Just instruction. For a second, she didn't move. Then the deputy stepped closer. Not touching. Just enough. She turned. Slowly. Hands pulled behind her back. The cuffs clicked. Metal on metal. Short. Final. The same sound my locks had made 20 minutes earlier. Only this time, it wasn't securing a door. It was ending control. The rest of the board stood frozen. No one spoke. No one stepped forward. Because there was nothing left to argue. Lawson nodded to the deputy. "Read her the charge." "Criminal trespass after notice," the deputy said. Denise didn't fight it. Didn't speak. Didn't even look at me. Not anymore. Because the version of this, where she was in charge, was gone. They walked her to the cruiser. Door opened. Closed. Engine started. And just like that. 8 years of assumed authority ended in a gravel driveway. The second deputy stayed behind. Took statements, names, times. Nothing dramatic. Just process. That's how real consequences work. Quiet, documented, final. One by one, the board members left. No meetings, no arguments, just gone. Eli came down from his place after the cars cleared out. He stood beside me for a second, looking at the house. "Well," he said, "that escalated." I didn't respond. Because it hadn't escalated. It had resolved. The next week moved fast, faster than anything before it. Claire filed everything: trespass, fraud, financial misrepresentation, the footage, the filings, the hearing recording where Brian Whitaker had claimed authorization under a dissolved trust. That part didn't take long. He resigned within 48 hours. No statement, no defense. Just gone. The HOA board called an emergency session. New leadership, audit initiated, records opened. Turns out, the money Denise had been collecting? $37,000, unreported, unaccounted for. Every dollar tied back to access that was never hers to sell. The case didn't drag, didn't get complicated. Because it didn't need to. The evidence wasn't a story. It was a record. Denise took a deal. Restitution. Removal from the board. Charges reduced, but not erased. Enough to end it. Enough to make it stick. They paid for the repainting. Every inch. I stood there the day it was finished. Watched the last coat go on. Rachel's color. Exactly the way she'd picked it. Emma came out with me that evening. Sat on the dock, feet in the water. Same spot she used to sit with her mom. "Feels normal again," she said. I nodded. It did. Not because anything had changed, but because it had been put back where it belonged. The lake was quiet. Same as always. Didn't care about HOAs. Didn't care about filings or authority. Just water, wind, time. I leaned back on my hands and looked at the house. Lights off. Doors closed. Still, the way it was supposed to be. Eli had said something a few days earlier. Stuck with me. People like that, he said, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. He wasn't wrong. Denise didn't see it as theft, or trespass, or fraud. She saw it as management, control, order. That's how it works. Until someone stops agreeing, until someone reads the documents, until someone decides that quiet doesn't mean permission. I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I waited longer, built it right, let the truth carry its own weight. And when the door finally closed, it didn't slam. It locked. And this time, it stayed that way.
What I love from all of this is simple, but it took time to understand. If you don't define your boundaries clearly and stand on them, someone else eventually will. Not always out of malice, but out of habit, convenience, or assumption. And once that line gets blurred, it's a lot harder to draw it back unless you're willing to be patient, steady, and precise about it. There's a difference between reacting and responding. I didn't fix this by arguing louder or pushing harder. I fixed this by slowing down, documenting what's mattered, and let the truth carry its own weight. That's something most folks don't tell you. Real strength doesn't always look like a fight. Sometimes it looks like staying calm long enough to get it right. And if you ever deal with someone stepping over your line, whether it's an HOA, a neighbor, or anyone who assumed too much, go ahead and drop a yes in the comments. I read those and I know a lot of people out there have been through something similar. And if you want more stories like this, real situations handled the right way, hit surprise and stick around. There's more coming.